Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights you need to be truly well informed. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive into a powerful idea, maybe even revolutionary. The idea that success isn't just about, talent or luck. It's actually a learnable philosophy, a set of principles anyone can master.
Exactly. And to unpack this, we're turning to a foundational text, one that's influenced countless achievers. Napoleon Hill's Law of Success course. And this isn't just like abstract theory. Hill spent over 2 decades meticulously analyzing the lives, the work of more than 100 incredibly successful men and women. He was trying to distill these universal principles.
Okay, let's dig into that. Hill's ambition for this course, it seems, was to teach people to think practically, to learn by doing, he said, and ultimately to organize their knowledge, their mental faculties, into a kind of personal power. The promise was pretty audacious, wasn't it? To get whatever you want within reason.
It really was. So our mission today is to pull out the most, surprising insights and the truly practical applications from Hill's, very extensive work. We'll look at specific lessons, the fascinating stories that bring them to life, and the underlying wisdom that he believed makes success genuinely achievable for anyone who really applies these ideas.
So where do we even start with such a comprehensive philosophy? Hill puts the absolute foundation, the cornerstone, on what he calls a definite chief aim.
Right, and this is way more than just a vague wish or some fleeting goal. It's about having a clear, a really well-conceived life work, something that absolutely fixes your purpose and, maybe most importantly, saves an incredible amount of wasted effort. What's truly insightful here, I think, is how he shows its impact, how pervasive it is.
He does give some striking examples of that ripple effect. He notes that followers become willing followers when they know their leader has that definite aim and the courage to act on it. And my favorite image he uses: even a balky horse knows when a driver with a definite chief aim takes hold of the reins. That visual, it just really drives home that idea of unwavering intent, doesn't it?
It really does. Think about Woodrow Wilson. He apparently focused intently on the White House for 25 years to become its chief tenant. Or Lincoln, his singular focus on freeing slaves shaped his entire presidency. And William Wrigley Jr., he built a multi-million-dollar business just by concentrating relentlessly on a 5-cent package of chewing gum. Simple focus. Edwin C. Barnes, another example, he narrowed his focus to selling Edison dictating machines and eventually retired young and wealthy.
So what does this mean for us, listening right now? Hill boils it down to 3 steps. First, cultivate a burning desire. Then, crystallize that desire into a definite purpose. And finally, take sufficient appropriate action. The really profound takeaway, I think, is that your definite chief aim should become your hobby. You literally sleep with it, eat with it, live with it, constantly think with it. The insight there is how this total immersion acts as this powerful filter for all your decisions, sort of subtly guiding you toward your goal.
And that kind of intense focus, it requires an equally strong inner state, which brings us right to self-confidence. He'll position self-confidence as the master key, the thing that helps you overcome what he identifies as the 6 basic fears. Poverty, ill health, old age, criticism, loss of love, and death.
Okay, this is where it gets particularly thought-provoking for me. Hill points out how the fear of poverty, for instance, didn't come from, physical threats like in the animal kingdom, but from man's tendency to prey on his fellow man financially. That's a pretty stark observation.
It is.
And the fear of criticism, he sees it being subtly manipulated even back then by clothing manufacturers constantly changing styles, knowing people fear wearing out-of-style hats. It's a fascinating insight into psychological manipulation from his era.
It's remarkably astute, isn't it? And to combat these fears, he offers this powerful 3-part self-confidence formula. First, you have to know your ability to achieve and demand persistent, aggressive action from yourself. No waiting around. Second, you need to truly grasp that your dominating thoughts actually transform into reality. He even suggests dedicating 30 minutes daily, just concentrating on a mental picture of your desired self or outcome.
And the third part is more outward-facing, right? It ties into attraction. Find at least one good quality to praise in others daily, genuinely, enthusiastically. He believes this not only builds your own character, but also attracts positive influence through what he calls the law of attraction. The idea that positive thoughts and actions tend to draw similar outcomes into your life.
And you see this play out in some pretty striking stories he tells. There's the story of the tramp, a man who'd lost everything, was even contemplating suicide. He literally transformed his life by selling himself, his potential, at $3,000 a year. Then he quickly became the president of a large concern. And he attributed this rapid change purely to renewed hope, faith, and courage, basically a shift in mindset.
Wow.
Or Edwin C. Barnes again, who apparently had to walk around the Edison plant a dozen times just to build the courage to go in. Hill uses this to highlight how the impression clothes made isn't just on others, but significantly on yourself. It affects your own self-perception.
Okay, so once you've cultivated that deep-seated confidence, Hill argues the next vital step is grounding yourself in this practical discipline. He calls it the habit of saving. He's really blunt about it. He states, and this is a direct quote, "No one may succeed in life without saving money." He presents it almost like a science, with simple rules. Mainly, it requires a willingness to subordinate present desires to future security and, eliminating unnecessary luxuries.
Yeah, and a key insight here is the empirical data he cites, or at least claims to cite, that 95% of failures saved nothing, while 5% of successes demonstrated this habit of systematic saving. He's incredibly direct about the power dynamic, too. The man without money is at the mercy of the man who has it. And also, people will weigh you very largely in the light of bank balances. It's quite a sobering perspective on financial leverage, really.
You see this so vividly demonstrated in examples like F.W. Woolworth. He built his empire by devising a simple method for collecting nickels and dimes, stuff millions just throw away, and it netted him over $100 million. Or George B. Williams, who saved just $15 a week from a $30 weekly salary for 4 years. That modest accumulation then secured him the credit he needed to build a successful printing plant.
It's the habit.
Exactly. Hill himself even apparently got $30,000 in credit purely because of his habit of saving, even though his actual savings were wiped out during the war. The habit itself had value.
Which raises an important question, I think. Why does Hill emphasize saving so much, beyond just having the money? He explains that financial independence is absolutely integral to personal freedom. He contrasts it powerfully with being forced to do work you dislike. He actually likens that to being held in prison. So the insight is that financial security grants you the freedom, the breathing room, to pursue your definite chief aim without external coercion or pressure.
Right. So after laying that solid foundation aim, confidence saving Hill pivots to unlocking your inner power. He starts with imagination, the workshop of the mind. He calls it the mirror of your soul, and get this, the greatest piece of machinery ever created, the place where all man-made objects and inventions are first formed.
Yeah, he really emphasizes that imagination lets you break down complex problems into their parts and then reassemble them for, better solutions. And he's very clear that dreamers need to also be doers, or at least they need to ally themselves with people who can translate those dreams into concrete reality. The surprising insight here, perhaps, is that imagination isn't just about creating something totally new. It's often about seeing solutions that aren't immediately obvious in the current situation.
Think about Marshall Field. After his business burned down in the Chicago fire, he didn't just see ashes. He used his imagination to envision the world's greatest retail store rising right there, and then he made it happen.
Incredible vision.
Or the discovery of the Calumet copper mine, apparently found by just one lone man, using his imagination to dig a few feet deeper after everyone else had given up. James J. Hill's Great Northern Railway System, built entirely in his imagination first, back when he was just a $30 a month railway station worker.
Wow.
Even a simple example, transforming a ramshackle barn into a profitable automobile supply station, just imaginative thinking.
Hill also touches on a really unique, almost mystical aspect of imagination. He suggests the mind can actually register vibrations and thought waves that are put into motion from outside sources. Almost like it's a radio receiver picking up signals. It's his way, I think, of trying to explain why ideas sometimes seem to just come to us from out of the blue. It hints at something like telepathy. And this leads us perfectly into his next big concept, mind chemistry and the mastermind.
Okay, this sounds profound. His belief is that every human brain is both a broadcasting and a receiving station for vibrations of thought frequency. He even posits that the mind is made up of the same universal fluid energy as that which constitutes the ether which fills the universe.
Yeah, pretty out there for the time.
This, he suggests, explains why some minds just seem to clash, while others have this natural affinity. It's like a form of mental resonance or frequency matching.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, he suggests that a harmonious blending of minds, not just individual minds, but minds working together, can develop enough power not just to solve economic problems, but even to achieve perfect health. This is the core of his mastermind principle. It's not just collaboration. It's this idea of synergistic mental amplification, like 1 + 1 = 3, mentally.
So how does he define the mastermind exactly?
There's the harmonious coordination of thought in a group of minds,
Yeah.
all working toward a definite objective.
And he really stresses that harmony is absolutely crucial. Gives a great analogy. One atom of hydrogen combined with one atom of oxygen will not produce water. You need 2 hydrogen.
Similarly, he says, an alliance in name only that is not accompanied by a spirit of perfect harmony won't produce power that is superhuman.
So it's the harmony, the actual blending of thought, not just having a bunch of people in a room, that creates this extraordinary power.
Exactly. And the examples he gives are compelling. A small sales group at Prudential Life Insurance, apparently, experimented with this mastermind idea and earned more in 3 months than they had in an entire previous year. Andrew Carnegie, a figure Hill studied closely, formed a mastermind with over 24 carefully selected individuals. Hill credits this group with creating one of the strongest industrial forces the world has ever witnessed.
Wow.
Henry Ford's massive success is also traced directly to applying this principle, surrounding himself with experts to achieve things he personally couldn't do alone. Even the Chicago Big Six, famous names like Wrigley, Lasker, Hertz, they formed this bond of friendship, this informal mastermind that he believes led directly to their collective financial success.
The power of aligned minds.
Right. He even points to the powerful influence of music in religious revival meetings as a way of creating this necessary harmony among large groups of people.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about cultivating the self, starting with what he calls enthusiasm and self-control, the dynamic duo. Hill explains enthusiasm as that vital quality that arouses you to action, which makes sense. But then self-control is the balance wheel that directs your action so that it will build up and not tear down. A truly well-balanced person, he says, keeps these two in equilibrium. The insight here is that raw energy needs careful steering, right?
Absolutely. And here's a startling fact Hill uncovered, or claimed, that 92% of penitentiary inmates, according to his research back then, lacked self-control.
92%, that's huge.
It is. He also notes that a lack of self-control is often a salesman's most damaging weakness. It's about consciously controlling your thoughts, your words, your actions, harmonizing them for maximum positive influence rather than just letting impulses run wild.
He shares a really telling story about a salesman who lost a massive, like, $50,000 order just because he countered with a remark when he felt his ability was being questioned. Just a flash of ego, lack of control.
Costly mistake.
Definitely. On the flip side, there's a story of a saleswoman who, with amazing self-control, just calmly responded, "Yes, miss," to a really impatient customer, and ended up making a significant sale, 3 petticoats, I think it was.
It pays off.
And Hill himself learned to write out his anger instead of immediately striking back at enemies. He saw this habit as crucial for anyone wanting to rise to high stations in life, pointing to leaders like Harding, Wilson, and Patterson, who he felt exemplified this.
And for actionable insights here, things you can actually do, Hill suggests using what he termed auto-suggestion, which is essentially the practice of consistently feeding positive affirmations or images to your subconscious mind to sort of program yourself for a positive state. He even humorously recommends just having a hearty laugh sometimes, calling it a great gloom chaser. Simple, but maybe effective.
Okay, following that, we get to the law of increasing returns, giving more to get more. This sounds interesting. This law, he says, is about performing more service and better service than that for which one is paid, and doing it proactively without waiting for permission.
Yeah, he puts it in very stark, almost karmic terms. You can no more render service without receiving compensation than you can withhold the rendering of it without suffering the loss of reward. Basically, you get exactly that for which you pay. The core and insight is that going the extra mile isn't just being nice, it's tapping into a fundamental principle of how value and reward work in the universe, broadly speaking. It attracts returns.
Think of Henry Ford's philosophy again. Give the people the best product at the lowest price possible. That's a form of giving more value. Or Marshall Field's department store. They built their legendary reputation partly by taking back a 2-year-old lace waist without any argument. They lost money on the item, sure, but the goodwill they gained was worth far more.
Long-term thinking.
Exactly. Or the stenographer who, at nearly 50 and earning only $15 a week, supposedly leveraged this principle of over-delivering service so effectively, she became a lecturer earning over $100,000 a year.
That's quite a transformation.
And Carol Downs, who impressed his boss by staying late, volunteering for small tasks, not for extra pay, but just to be on hand, show initiative. That inevitably led to his promotion. It's about demonstrating value beyond the job description.
And this principle also implies a deeper truth. that Hill often comes back to. Strength grows out of resistance.
Mm.
It's in pushing yourself beyond what's merely expected, in that extra effort, that you truly build your capacity, your skills, your character. Which leads us neatly into his strikingly optimistic perspective on the value of failure and adversity.
Yeah, this is a truly surprising twist on how most people think about failure. Hill challenges that common perception, stating flatly that failure is seldom permanent. He actually calls it a blessing in disguise, something that teaches lessons you simply can't learn any other way. It's really about embracing setbacks as essential teachers.
Right. Failure forces you into a position where unusual effort must be forthcoming. You have to dig deeper. It teaches humility, which he values highly. It's the bumps you get that test your mettle. Hill is quite open about his own struggles, his temporary defeat early in his career. He talks about personal financial problems, family pressure to just take a steady job, but he masterfully shows how these very setbacks were necessary. They paved the way for his law of success philosophy to gain its first real traction through influential figures like the editor Don Mellett and Judge Elbert H. Gary of U.S. Steel. The failure was part of the path.
Okay, now let's explore the art of influence, starting with pleasing personality, attracting cooperation. This seems crucial. Hill defines personality not just by your looks or clothes, but as the sum total of your characteristics. It includes your clothes, yes, but also the lines on your face, your tone of voice, your inner thoughts, and crucially, your developed character. It's a very holistic view.
And he introduces what he calls the law of harmonious attraction, or sometimes the law of retaliation, which basically just states like attracts like. Simple idea. But he's quick to clarify. Genuine earnestness of purpose is essential. You can't fake it with artificial flattery. That won't create a truly attractive personality long term. He also highlights the incredible, almost subconscious power of things like a warm handshake or a penetrating, genuine smile. He believed they could disarm someone, neutralize their potential resistance, and make them instantly want to listen to you.
He tells a great little story about that, doesn't he? About an old lady whose warm, firm handshake completely disarmed him when he was maybe expecting a sales pitch. It made him a willing victim, as he puts it, ready to listen, just from that handshake.
Yeah.
It's about creating that immediate positive resonance, that instant connection, sometimes even before a word is spoken.
Exactly. And finally, we come full circle back to the mind with the power of applied thought and action. Hill reiterates his core belief here. All thought is creative. He really hammers this point home. Positive, expectant thoughts, he insists, literally create positive conditions. While thoughts centered on misery and poverty will inevitably create those very conditions in your life, your mind is constantly building your reality, thought by thought.
He uses the analogy of the mind being like a dynamo, constantly generating thought energy. And the subconscious mind, that's the fertile soil where the seed of your definite chief aim must be planted. And it's fertilized, he says, by positive belief. The absolute key, he emphasizes repeatedly, is persistent, intensified faith in that seed, in that aim. You have to believe it's possible.
And for practical application, how do you actually do this? He advises focusing your attention intently on your definite chief aim twice a day, preferably in a quiet, relaxed state, and vividly visualizing its realization. See it, feel it as if it's already happened. It's about the consistent mental conditioning, actively tending to the seeds you've planted in your subconscious.
He shares a really powerful example of this in action. Alvin Cullum York, a Tennessee squirrel hunter who became this incredible, decorated war hero in World War I, won the Congressional Medal of Honor, French Croix de Guerre, all sorts of accolades. York apparently faced German machine guns without fear, driven by the thought, the belief that he was fighting to vindicate his religion and preserve Christian ideals. It demonstrates how deeply held thoughts and beliefs can translate into truly extraordinary, almost unbelievable action, even in the face of immense danger.
Ultimately, Hill believed the course's true value lies not just in the information itself, but in providing thought stimuli. Things that cause the student, you, the listener, to teach yourself, to draw out the immense inner forces that he believed reside within every single person. It's about activating your own potential.
Wow. What an illuminating deep dive into Napoleon Hill's law of success. It's quite a journey. We've unpacked so much, everything from defining your definite chief aim and building that unshakable self-confidence.
Right, and cultivating the vital habit of saving, harnessing the incredible power of imagination.
And we explored the synergistic force of the mastermind, that dynamic duo of enthusiasm and self-control, the profound impact of the law of increasing returns.
And even learning to reframe failure not as an end, but as a disguised blessing. a teacher.
It really all boils down to organized knowledge, applied knowledge, expressed in terms of deliberate, focused action.
And it's important to remember these principles. They aren't just, historical anecdotes from a century ago. Hill intended them as timeless tools for your life right now, offering a clear pathway, or at least his version of one, to overcome challenges and achieve your own definite chief aim. It's about conscious, consistent application, though, not just passively absorbing the ideas. You have to do the work.
Absolutely. So, as you, our listener, reflect on all of this, maybe consider this provocative thought Hill often hinted at. The greatest treasure, the biggest opportunity is often found right where you stand, in your current circumstances, your current job, your current challenges. True wealth, Hill suggests, isn't just measured by what you have in the bank, it's measured by what you do and, maybe more importantly, who you become in the process of applying these universal laws. So maybe the challenge is, go look for your own Calumet mine, your own hidden opportunity right in your present situation.